good evening, everybody. My name is Tanja Morris, and we are back live for my favorite day of the week, Testimony Tuesday. So, good evening. It is November. It is actually the first day of November, which is a special month for me as my birthday is slowly approaching. So, good evening, everybody. Testimony Tuesday is our space where we come together to reflect, release, and celebrate amongst the village our personal level up. So, tonight we have our guest. If you can send in a request, we will get started. So I'm super excited about this guest tonight because mothering is an important thing that most of us mothers do. And one of the biggest things that we talk about is not suffering in silence. And this is one of the wonderful things that this mother has created, a space for us to talk about what's real and redefining what motherhood looks like, especially most of us as work and as moms. So good evening, everybody. Can y'all hear me good? Is the connection good? How you feeling?
I'm great. How are you, love?
I'm good. You can hear me?
Yeah, I hear you
Our,
loud and clear.
our connection is great. Last week we was having some trouble, so I'm excited to be able to get back on. I'm so happy to see everybody tapping in tonight. So go ahead and introduce yourself. We're going to get started. And good evening, everybody. Welcome to Testimony Tuesday.
Hi, loves. How are you? My name is Treanna Newville. Here on Instagram, I go by Modern Day Mommy. My little space on Instagram, what I like to do is help moms to redefine motherhood, looking and feeling good. So for me, that basically means prioritizing our self-care so that we can feel good about how we're showing up in life.
Yes. So I love it. I love it. I love it. So we are going to get all into the personal testimony and how we got here today. So the question that we pose every Tuesday on Testimony Tuesday is, where are you at with tackling life today?
So today, like if we're gonna be like literal, today has definitely been a little bit trying. But I'm definitely grateful for every day that I get to wake up and try again. So I wanted to talk today a little bit about, like you said as moms, it's important for us to have safe spaces, and that's what I wanted to create here on Instagram. And my Modern Day Mommy page came from a time in like my motherhood journey where I felt lost, right? I wasn't really sure where I was, what I was doing. I know that I wasn't happy in motherhood, and I was going through postpartum depression after having my second son. So I needed a space to be able to be transparent about what I was going through. And back in those days, because this is a while ago, because my baby's going to be 11 next week. Okay. This is a while ago, but back then moms weren't as vocal as they are now in regards to what motherhood was feeling like. And so I started my Instagram page to just share essentially what was going on with me. And then it just kind of like became this whole big thing. And so that's how I got here.
Yes. Okay, so let's talk about today. As a mom, what does your day look like? Where do you start? What's the time you start? What does it look like? What are the multiple hats that you wear, the multiple things that you have to do and routines?
Yeah, so for me, routines are very, very important. And that's what I try to teach my moms that I coach in my Modern Day Mommy community. Routines are important for us because they help us to have like structure and like some sense of like normalcy and organization within our day. So my day for me typically starts around 4:30 in the morning because self-care is very important to me. And I know because I'm busy during the day, I'm an educator, I'm a high school teacher. So I spend most of my days with other people's children, and then I have my children. So my mornings are for me. So I start my mornings off at 4:30. I'll have my tea or my coffee. I'll spend some time with God. I'll work on like my blog or like, things that I'm doing for like my mom clients, do my affirmations, work out, whatever it is that I need to fill my cup. That's what I'm doing before I go ahead and wake up my family. Good evening. And then I'll just go to work. I'm a teacher, so I work from 8 to 3, 4, whatever it is the kid's gonna need that day. And then 4:30 a.m. And then I typically come home, dinner, and then just kind of sort of try to take care of my babies and like figure out how their day was, do the homework thing, cook dinner. I have a husband, so I try to spend time with him. So it's a lot going on over here, which is why having routines and those types of things are really important.
Yeah. So does the 4:30 feel like added pressure, or is it just something that has become like normal?
Yeah, so for me, it's something that I look forward to. I love spending time with myself, right? We talked a little bit about it in the beginning when I said to you that I had lost myself to motherhood. So for me, being able to have that time for me is so essential. So I look forward to it. Like I'm ready to wake up at 4:30. When I first started, difficult, right? It was a struggle. It was times I was just like hitting that snooze button, like be quiet alarm clock, because I didn't want to do it. But as I've gotten into this habit and it's become my routine, it's something that I really look forward to and I really cherish my alone time.
Yeah, yeah, it is very essential, and I think every mom will find their time, their place. I know for me, mine's is driving in my car.
Mm-hmm.
Driving in my car is essential. Even if my kids is in my car, I'm at that point where I don't want to listen to Disney. I'm going to listen to my personal development. I'm going to listen to my podcast, especially if it's in the morning. Like I have to do what I need to do, especially with the multiple routines. So
Absolutely.
I think it's finding your niche. That's one of the biggest things. Like on this journey for me, it's like what works for you might not work for somebody else, because it's also about our personality. It's about what we like, our balance, and the things that so I think it's about taking tools and making it realistic to your life, because I'm
Yeah.
an early morning person as well. But not everybody is an early morning person. So some people are late night people or midday people.
And that's where the like self-awareness comes in, right? On my journey to find myself, that's what you kind of sort of have to figure out. You have to kind of figure out what works for you, what works for your family, and what feels good, right? Because a lot of times I find, especially in mom spaces, we're looking at other mothers to like kind of sort of tell us how we should be living or what our lives should look like. And for me, when I talk about redefining motherhood, that's what I mean. Figuring out what you want your motherhood journey to look like, how you want your family to run, what you want your day to day to look like, and not to be so reliant on what you see people doing or like what you was taught growing up. You know what I mean? Because a lot of the things, I mean, because it's great to take certain things from people, but it's even more important to know why you're doing something, right? Because a lot of times we do things and you don't have no clue, and it's hard to sustain especially when it comes to routines. So it's very, very important that you get clear on what you want, what your goals are, and how you feel, and then go forward.
Yeah, most definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's get into like the testimony touchy part. So I know for me, right, talking about mothering, talking about redefining mothering, I had a moment in the pandemic, and this is kind of around the time I actually started Sisters with the Agenda. And I said to my mom, like, Mom, I did not sign up to be a 24-hour mom. Like,
Period.
this is hard. Like I thought my kids were going
Period.
to go to school, be in daycare, that block where they're not with us. I look forward to that. Like I'm a working mom. I take care of other people's kids as well. So that was like a big part of me. And my mom was a little, like black tangent, because she stayed home with us until we were able to go to school. But I'm like, that might have been the idea that you had for yourself. I'm being real with myself that this is not the idea that I had for myself. And me just saying it out loud, there was a moment of, other people looking at me with shame, but I felt relief, to be honest with myself. So then I was able to cope with the pandemic. I was able to figure it out. I was able to say, okay, these moments are hard for me. So what was the moment for you that was just like, okay, what I thought this was, I have to let go in order for me to be able to be sane? Because
I
that's
think
really what
that
it
no,
is.
and that's so important because again, like redefining motherhood, you have to figure out what works for you. But for me, I wanted to talk a little bit tonight about the importance of I think being working moms, like, we have like goals and ideas and like, this vision for like what we want our life to be. And after going through postpartum and becoming really intentional about self-care, I had this vision for my life, right? Like I had thought I had arrived. I had healed myself from my postpartum. I had started my therapy. I started my business. I was doing all the things. And I was like, okay, so this is what I'm going to do. I don't want to be, I'm going to eventually retire from teaching. I want to become an entrepreneur full time. And then I have two sons. So my boys are 15 and 11. So I have big babies. And I was like, okay, so I do want to have another child. So that was my ultimate goal. And then I got hit with ovarian cancer.
Mm.
And I got hit with ovarian cancer, and then I found out that I needed to do like a full blown hysterectomy to make sure that my cancer did not continue to spread. So when I found out that I had cancer and that I would not be able to have any more children, it kind of sort of put like this dark cloud over my entire life, right? That vision that I had created, like what I saw for myself in the future, like, you know, because I told you, I thought I had arrived. I thought I was doing all the things and my life was about to be this fairy tale ending. Like my fairy tale ending kind of sort of like left me, right? Because I realized that like I would not be able to have that family, that idea of this thing that, you know, that I wanted. Like I wouldn't be able to have my third child because I wanted a daughter. I wouldn't be able to do that. And it was heartbreaking and it was crushing. And it's going to be a year next month that it will be like since I've found out that I had cancer, and I got my hysterectomy in January of 2022. And so for me, this entire year has been a challenge because I now have had to once again redefine what my motherhood journey is supposed to look like. I now again have had to rebuild myself up, right? Because when these types of things happen to you, it left me feeling very empty, broken, and not like a woman. Like I felt very like just like what is life right now, you know what I mean? And it was a struggle. Like I was mad at everybody. Like I was mad at God. I was mad at my husband because he took so long to give me another baby. And if he had given me baby 2 years ago and I asked, maybe I would have my kid and not have to go through this. I was mad because I hated my body. I hated my body for betraying me in this kind of way. So I've had this whole year, I've been working on rebuilding myself back up. And it's very important that we acknowledge the fact that, like you said, you say what it is that you're feeling, because if you're not honest about how you're feeling, you're not going to be able to heal, right?
Yeah.
You can't heal if you don't admit that you hurt. So I had to get really real with myself and, like, you know, in my spiritual journey with God, and let him know, like, yo, like you played me and I feel a type of way, right? And then also acknowledge that it's okay for your life to kind of sort of start to look different. Like it is okay if you had this vision for yourself and it kind of sort of doesn't go that way, but you have to feel, right? Like you have to sit with it. And I think initially I was trying to just like rush through it and get back to like what I thought my life was supposed to be and pretend like that I was okay, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I wasn't okay, right? And having a full-blown hysterectomy at 32 years old is like crazy, right? And then now being 30 and now I'm thrown into like menopause, and then to have to deal with the menopausal part of that, right? So the hot flashes, the fact that my vagina isn't working the same way, so now intimacy is now impacted with my husband. Now my body that I have been working on for the last 5 years to like lose the weight after the kids and stuff like that, is now I'm going to have to work on it again, because once you're thrown into menopause, all your hormones and stuff change. You start to gain weight in places and areas, and it's a mess, right? It's a mess up here. And this is something I didn't think I would have to deal with until I was well into like my 50s or 60s. You know what I mean? So to have to deal with it at this age, for me, it's just been very like eye-opening and hard, hard, absolutely hard. But I'm grateful, right? Because it's teaching me, like I said to you at the beginning, about the importance of like loving myself, like despite the things that I'm going through. And I feel like that's what I've been learning, how to be okay with myself and also with pivoting, right? So now this has happened. What do I want my life to look like now?
Yeah, yeah. It's so crazy because lately I've been thinking about, I don't plan for the future. I've never been a person that plans for the future. Like tonight, it's like, my questions come to me as I go, right? That's how God has created me to walk in my purpose. And I have been accepting that God has plans for me, and I can't plan my future, right? I can't plan what it looks like. So letting go of that process. Unfortunately, the opposite for me is I found out I was pregnant. Didn't think Yeah. Look, that's the thing about Testimony Tuesday. I speak my truth when we are in the moment. So yeah, I recently found out I was pregnant in the midst of,
Can I say congratulations?
yes, you can.
Congratulations!
But so like some people say sorry because me and my husband is going through some things, and some people say congratulations. And I'm like, I'm like, I was in denial, but then it's also like in denial because I saw my business and I saw me going different places. And I'm like, whatever is for me is for me, and trying to balance kids, babies, little ones, three little ones now, and just, trying to accept that because it's just like, okay, this wasn't part of the plan, but accepting that God has a plan. And I think that just speaks to the point that you were just saying, just always being able to pivot. And that's one of the things that I have learned. And no matter if it's business, no matter if it's, your day to day life, your routines, because we can have routines. And sometimes before, when I first started putting routines into my life, I would get frustrated because something else is changing. Summertime is here, holidays is here, kids get sick, so you have plans for certain things. So just learning to be able to pivot, learning to be okay with whatever is going to come next, and always being able to restructure. For me, I think for me, our platform always talk about having that personal and professional mission. So even though you had this grand view, it's still going to align with the ultimate mission of what's to come next. So for you going through this process, what did healing look like for you? Like, what did that healing look like for you? Like, I was just recently looking at a post about the mom bod. And I know that was a big part for me after my kids having 2 C-sections, and my stomach never went down. And people always say to me like, oh, lose weight, or, this and that third, like my body is healing differently, and I was offended, for a while. And I told my husband that I was uncomfortable, which made sex hard for us because I didn't like the way I looked. And I had to put mirrors around me to start saying like, no, this is how God created you, flaws and all, and this is where you're at right now. You didn't do this. You didn't just let yourself go, just accepting again the process. This is the process of what I'm going through. Then I lost the stomach and now I'm pregnant.
But it's okay because you're going to do it again, friend. Like, it's cool. You're going to do it again. So I would say for me, like, I still feel like I'm healing. Like, it's going to be a year since I've had my hysterectomy in January. And, like, I want to say in August is when I started to kind of sort of feel like I was coming into the light. Like, I was in a very dark place for a long time. And for me, healing looked like being honest, sitting with my feelings. Because that's the thing that I feel like a lot of times, especially with us moms, we run from how we're feeling, right? Because like you say, there's so much shame and guilt and like embarrassment when you're honest about what motherhood has felt like for you, right? So that was that. It was just kind of sort of like, Trey, like, this is where we are. Like, this is where we are. I know that's what you wanted. You can't have that. So now what? Lots of tears. Lots of tears. Lots and lots and lots of tears, right? And then therapy, of course. And then just being vocal and leaning really into like my self-care routines, right? We talk about routines. It's really important to acknowledge the season that you're in. This is the season that I'm in. I'm very upset. I'm unhappy. What can I do to make me be okay? There was for a time that I couldn't even be in mom spaces or around women who were pregnant or who had small children because it was a trigger for me. Like, I felt very jealous and like envious and all those things. Cause I'm like, girl, like I really wish I could be you. Right. But I had to be honest, like, with myself about those feelings and not run from them because like I said, you can't heal with you what you don't be honest about. So just being honest about where I was and knowing, like you said, that even though this is not what my life is going to look like now, that there's something that's going to be on the other end if I continue to just push through, right? So just self-care, myself, my personal development. I love to read, so reading lots of books, spend a lot of time in nature, and then saying no a lot. Like I said no a whole lot and created like, more boundaries around myself and like what I spent my time doing.
So becoming vocal, and getting to a point where, just redefining. And so I think especially when it comes to motherhood, because I think the world has this idea and expectation. And I remember doing a live like back. And I was like, who made up these expectations? You know what I'm saying? Who made up these expectations? Your expectations of motherhood may look different because of your culture, your
Yes.
religion, or
Yes.
whatever the case may be
Yes.
versus mine, right? So who made up these expectations? Everybody's expectation looks different.
Yep.
So for you, once you started to break down those like those barriers for yourself, how did the people around you start to accept it, and how did you navigate in those spaces?
So kind of sort of like the whole idea of like what my motherhood has looked like even before I had my hysterectomy, it was after my postpartum depression. That first journey was when I let everybody know like what it's hitting for. Like I'm not the type of person or the type of mom that's going to allow people to come up in my space and tell me how I should be mothering, right? I'm very vocal about what I believe is right. Like I'm definitely open to like conversation and stuff like that. But like you said, our journeys aren't supposed to look the same, right? It's not your motherhood, my motherhood, her motherhood. It's all supposed to be different. That's the thing that makes motherhood so beautiful, is the fact that everyone has a different perspective and we're all doing it differently, right? So now we have all something to add to the conversation. So I've always been very vocal about what it's about. Like that's why I started my Instagram page. So if you started the journey with me, you would know. And I think that, like you said, with these societal expectations and the shame and the guilt, people will try to tell you like you should do it this way. Like my mom, for instance, right? Because she's from the old school, right? So a lot of the ideas that I have about how I mother and what I do with my kids is kind of sort of like, girl, what you doing? But I had to let her know too, when I told you like boundaries, like, mom, I love you, but friend, this is what we doing over here. This is how I'm raising my children over here. This is how I'm showing up for myself over here. And I'm very, very intentional about how I take care of myself. And then taking care of myself, I love to look good. Like wigs, hair, nails, all the things. Like I do that constantly because that's just what I need. And I feel like it's very important in motherhood that as we're doing this, we don't forget about ourselves, because that's what happens a lot. And I would be damned if I, again, after having this hysterectomy, allow myself to get so deep in like, my despair that I lose myself again. That's something that I did not want to do. So I was very vocal with everyone around me, how I felt, right? So everybody knew, like my job knew, my bosses knew, my husband knew, my kids knew, everybody knew what
Yeah.
was going on. So you could know, like if I come in today and I'm not talking and I'm quiet, you know what it is. Like it's just not a good day, right? So that's what I did, girl.
And it's so funny because I just want to share, you sharing the uncomfortability of going through your experience and being around other pregnant moms,
Mm-hmm.
and me sharing this. It's giving me a moment of gratitude because there was a space where I was like, I don't want this baby, like,
Yes, mom.
and a sister said to me, like, oh, don't say that. And I was like, well, that's my truth. Like, I have to be honest and I have to speak my truth. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. Like, that's how I feel, but it also gives me that moment of gratitude that God blesses you with certain things and you don't understand why. And sometimes you just have to be grateful for what God bless you with. And,
Absolutely.
everybody won't have that same experience. But it's so funny because, when you're in this early pregnancy stage, a lot of women don't want to share because, you may go through a miscarriage, you may go through, different complications. And I remember my boss today, I had a check-in today, and he asked me, and I was like, okay, at this point, everybody can see my stomach. Some days I gotta sit down, like, and I gotta sit down, and I'm like, why are you hiding this, Tanja? Like, it
Mm-hmm.
is what it is. The facts is what the facts is. If God forbid something happens, I'm just going to tell you because that is me. I have learned that I no longer suppress my voice. If it's supposed to come out, it's going to come out. There's no shame in it. And that's a big part of why Testimony Tuesday is so important to me, because I feel like we have to speak it out loud, what we're feeling, and stand in our truth. When we stand in our truth, there's so much power behind it. So I had to say to my boss, like, listen, I'm pregnant. This is what it is. If you catch me at the front door and I'm sitting down and you looking at me like, well, I'm sitting down, this is why, and not feeling no shame and no guilt, but it also gave him a level of how he can support me. Because
Absolutely.
a lot of times when we're not truthful, then we don't know how to be supported. And I think for me, the biggest barrier of redefining motherhood for me, it was I see my mother-in-law, I see my mom, and I see them still suffering in silence. And I'm not a child anymore. So just knowing that, like we say, like we can look at these expectations, but some of them are still struggling. Some of them are suffering in silence. Some of them are still, wishing that they had the confidence like we have to be able to say, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to balance a 9 to 5, try to, build generational wealth or build a business or just do the things that we love to do, because a lot of this comes from what we love.
Yes.
And still finding time to have that balance as a wife, a mother, a husband, and all the other titles that we wear. And I always had to say to my husband, I say, the expectation you have, most of those moms were house moms. We didn't work.
Can we talk about that though? And then and the thing that pisses me off, look, I'm about to get hot. Like I'm getting hot. I think a hot flash is coming on, because this is the thing that pisses me off the most, right? When you look in mom spaces, a lot of times, a lot of us are working, and in some households, be the primary breadwinners. So you want me to go out and work? I'm making most of the money primarily, right? And take care of the kids, take them to the appointment, do all the things, PTA, parent-teacher conferences, little bake sales, book fairs, all the things that they have going on, go to work, show up, come home, sex you up down, make sure I look good, cook your dinner, clean. Who are you talking to? Who are you talking to? Who? I'm confused. And I think that for me, it's so important, like you said, to be honest and authentic about what the experience is. Because I feel like, if I'm being 100% honest, the issue is that not enough moms are talking. So people have these expectations from us. This is why I be talking, because I'm not doing it.
Right.
I'm not doing all of that. I'm not. I'm just not. I'm really quick to delegate a task. I'm asking for help. I don't have no problem with doing none of that. I don't have no problems with doing any of that, because what I'm not going to do is run myself ragged for nobody.
Yeah.
Motherhood is not synonymous with like self-sacrifice. Motherhood is not synonymous with like just being run down and tired all the time. I deserve to feel good. I deserve to be happy. In the same way I'm showing up and taking care of everybody else, I need to be taken care of too. So that means I'm going to take care of me. You're going to take care of me too. These kids going to take care of me too. We're going to all do this together. I'm not going to be the only person in here caretaking. We're going to all be in here caretaking.
Yep.
Or you can't be over here with me. You can't sit with me over here.
And I think that for me was like the breaking ground in my marriage. It was like, we have to have an honest conversation. You know what I'm saying? Because what we're seeing, like, oh, you don't do laundry. I'm like, but I work. I get up at 5:45 in the morning and I come home at 6 o'clock.
Who do laundry? Because I definitely see my laundry outside my house. I drop it off and I pick it up. I do that with my groceries too. What happened? And tonight I didn't cook either. I ordered takeout. What's up? What's up?
And I think, like you said, it's about having these open conversations and starting to change the narrative. Because at the end of the day, like I said, what was happening before is not happening now. And it's all about being honest. And I think that marriage is still successful when you are able to be truthful and be able to be honest about where you are at, what this looks like, and what this should look like for us. I said that. I was like, our marriage doesn't have to look like what your mom's marriage is. Because first of all, it's a perception. We only get in the perception.
And I'm not your mom either.
We're not getting the full story. We're not getting the full story. We only getting the perception. And a lot of expectations is put more on the women when a lot of our men are not meeting the expectation, like you said. So I think for us, continue to uphold these conversations and empowering others to just say it's okay to stop and redefine. and reevaluate. And I always say, be realistic to your situation.
Absolutely.
Everybody's situation is different. You know, like I said, I see other moms doing multiple business. I'm like, hold on, I gotta know my energy level, what I'm capable of doing, what I'm capable of managing, what I'm capable of, what I want to do, right? What I want to do, what I want this to look like, where my passion is, where
Of
my
course.
drive is, because everybody's passion and drive is different. So you have to, like you said, that self-awareness part is key. So once you have that conversation, and that's why for me that personal and professional is so big, like you have to have a vision for yourself. You have to have
Absolutely.
a mission for yourself. What is the goal? And being clear on that. Like, I said to my husband, I said, I realized that I compromised on some things that I didn't want to really compromise on because of the perception and the idea of what a mom and a wife was. And now I'm in it and I'm like, this don't feel good. This don't
Yeah.
feel good. And we want to be in a place where we feel good, we feel supported, we feel appreciated on both sides of the spectrum. So I appreciate the honesty in the conversation, because you talked about bad moms. And recently when I went to Minneapolis, if you ever seen the movie Bad Moms, in the beginning of the movie, she's running around doing all these things, and you would have thought that she was a single mom. I literally would have thought that she was a single mom. Like
No,
that.
because like it's like you said, it's society and it's also cultural upbringing. Like I don't know about you, but I have a husband that's from the Caribbean, right? Like and then and Black families and Caribbean families, from my experience, it has been known that mom does all the things, and I feel like that's great if that's what your mother wanted to do. I'm not doing that, friend. I'm not. I cannot be that type of woman for you and then fulfill myself at the same time, because I refuse. Like I'm not doing that. Like I mean, and I think that for me also, it's important because I don't want my sons, because that's who I have. I have boys. I don't want my sons to think for a second that any woman should be waiting on them hand and foot. You are going to also be in there doing the same things. You know what I mean? I feel like this is how we kind of like continue these like societal like narratives and like
Yeah.
generational traumas that we keep passing on and passing on when we do this to our daughters, and allow our sons to think that they don't have to show up in the same capacity, friend. Like your wife outside, she working. I don't need your wife calling me and telling me that you're not helping her in that house, friend, because I'm gonna have a problem with you, because you know better than that. Because I'm gonna show you in our household and in the marriage that I have with your father that we're not doing that. He's gonna do and I'm gonna do. It's not no 50-50. It's 100 and 100 over here. Some days he gonna cook, some days I'm gonna cook, some days he gonna clean, some days I'm gonna clean, some days nobody gonna do nothing. But the expectation is not always going to be that mom is supposed to do it all, because
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm not.
And I love the movie Bad Moms because in the part of it is the mom breaks down because she's trying to do all of these things to please others. And once she realized, once I take care of myself, things just fall in line. Son learned how to be independent and cook for himself. Daughter started to appreciate all the things that she really was sacrificing. And it was just easy. It was easy. And they saw the appreciation. When you honor yourself, you're so much better to all of those that are around you. I know for
Absolutely.
me, when I was trying to wear all of those hats and have these babies, I came home, I was an ASS. I was ASS. I was horrible to my family.
Mean, yelling, like, short tempered, irritable, like, just not a happy person to be around. Like, nobody wants to be around. Mom, why are you always grumpy? Mom, why you always have an attitude? Mommy, why you don't want to spend time with us? Because I'm tired of y'all. I'm tired of y'all. I'm tired of your father. I'm tired of work. I'm tired of all of this. That's why I feel this way, which is why, like you said, self-care is so essential.
Yeah.
You cannot continue to pour from an empty cup. You have to take care of yourself so then your family gets the overflow. When we feel good, girl, what can't we do? You know what I'm trying to say? When we feel it, like, what can we do? We can do all the things,
Yeah.
right? But that's not the expectation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's not the expectation. I love that because it really, for me, it was, like I said, it was just standing in that truth. That was the shift in it. It was like, okay, hold on, pause. Let's be honest about what's really going on here. And from then I shifted into this different person. Now it wasn't easy,
Mm-mm.
because change is not easy. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
it's something that takes time for individuals to learn and be able to cope with. But for me, again, I just think about the end of that movie. It didn't make sense to everybody else, but it made sense to me and what I feel. And in that, I know it's going to result to all of us, being a
Of
better
course.
family.
And then that's when the boundaries come in, right? Like you're talking about, like, teaching people how to treat you. Like that goes also with people inside your household. You know what I mean? And boundaries are very difficult to create, especially when people are so used to you showing up in one type of capacity. The
Yeah.
expectation is that you continue to show up this way. But as people, as humans, as women, we are allowed to evolve. We are allowed to change. Like, we are allowed to like change our mind and say like, hey, so I want to do it this way now. You're allowed that. And I think a lot of times moms don't think that they have that right. But mom, like, you have the right to decide, like, I don't want to do motherhood this way anymore. This does not feel good for me. This is how I want to do it. And when you talk about marriage, girl, I've been with my husband for 16 years. We've
Mm.
been together for like ever, and we've been married for 11 years. And if I'm going to be
Congratulations.
100% honest, I feel like we just now getting it. We are just now getting it. After 11 years, we are just now getting on the same page, right? Because you have these kinds of things these like nuances that you kind of have to go through, where you have to teach people, like, I know that's what you used to, but that's not me no more, friend. We change so much, and you have to let people meet you again and understand that that's not me, and this is what I'm going to expect. And if you want to have a relationship with me, this is what you have to do. And it's not personal. I don't hate you. It's none of those types of things. But it's so that we can continue to protect ourselves and to take care of ourselves, because you know what it's like on the other side of this. You know how you felt when you were doing it the other way. So why not try it this way?
Yeah. And I think for me, I started looking at the concept of the kings and the queens,
Mm-hmm.
right? First of all, you cannot rule without having a king next to you. But if you really looked at it, the queen was the planner, the queen was the organizer, the queen was the one that kept everything together in all actuality. So I think that, with men and individuals can get to that place where they can be able to allow each other to stand in their role and be able to navigate in those spaces, because a lot of times it's like the man is the leader in certain capacities, but for real, we are the educators, we are the nurturers, we are the planner and the organizer of what happens in this household. So I think, in this, for any man that's watching or any women that's struggling with finding your voice in that marriage, just understanding that your voice has power and that it's supposed to be heard, and those feelings that you're feeling are supposed to be spoken in order for you to have that ultimate partnership. And I think that, like you said, that change is important, and setting those boundaries is important because, like you said, as mothers, we get to be better role models as well, because we're teaching our kids these values and these lessons at an early age of what boundaries look like, because so many things they're going to do are going to come from the mom and the dad in the household, and how we treat ourselves and
Yes.
how we treat our mate and how we treat
Yes.
others. And a lot of us growing up, we didn't have those boundaries. We didn't know how to say no.
No, no. A lot of moms still know how to say no. No, they struggle with, because you feel like you're a bad person for telling people no. And it's like, are you though? Are you? Like, are you are you a bad person for saying no because you're tired? Are you a bad person for saying no because you need to rest for a little bit? Like, are you though? And I think that that's the thing that you have to remember, right? Because what's the alternative? Right? You're not saying no. What is the alternative? Like, you're dragging yourself every day like that. That's what we're gonna be doing here. And then now you're teaching your kids that they don't have to have boundaries. They can allow people to do whatever they want to do. And I'm not saying like it's always like bad stuff, right? Because when I talk about like having boundaries, it's not because people are, mistreating me, but it's because people are always expecting me to show up in the same
Yes.
capacity. And in certain seasons, I ain't got it. Like with after having my hysterectomy, friend, I didn't have it. I barely had it for myself. Right now, I don't have it. So for me to be able to pull it from somewhere, where I'm supposed to get this from? So I need you to know what's going on with me. I mean, not in, full transparency, but I need you to know how I'm feeling. I need you to understand that I cannot show up on that level right now because I don't have it.
Yeah.
I don't have it.
Yeah. I had a thought and I lost it that
It's okay. I'm
fast. But
sorry.
this is just such an empowering conversation because even, talking about a hysterectomy, talking about C-sections, all of those different things and just in the body. Like I said, you talked about the mom bod. You talked about the body because I think, that's one of the struggling things as well. Like I had to say to my husband, like, I'm not having sex if it's uncomfortable for me. I'm not doing things that feel uncomfortable for me. And, in marriage, that's sometimes hard and difficult to
Of
have
course.
those conversations. And, again, and just learning to love your body through
Of
the
course.
different transitions because our bodies go through a lot of different transitions. So for you, what did that journey look like and how do you help uplift other women?
Woo! Um, so very similar to you, like from when I first found out that I had the cancer, like my husband was the first person I called because I just didn't know what to do. You know what I mean? And then like when we started to go to the doctors and stuff like that, and they were saying to me, like my doctor was like devastated when she was talking to me, like full transparent, she was devastated, and she was like, I can't, I'm so sorry this is happening to you because you're young. And I know that you and your husband are like, like I know you're, because everybody know I love my husband, right? Like we be getting it in, like So that's a big part of
Yeah.
our relationship, and I think that a lot of times, people aren't, as vocal about like that kind of thing. Like I'm not saying I mean whatever is going on in your relationship, that's fine. But in our relationship, that's what we enjoy doing. Like that was our intimacy, that's stuff that we like. And my doctor was letting me know, like, it's gonna change. It's gonna be very, very different. After you have a hysterectomy, it's not going to be the same. And so when I first had the surgery, I was like, okay, I'm healing. Like I wasn't thinking nothing of it. And then when it came time and I started to do stuff and it wasn't working, I was like, what is this? What what's happening? And I remember like the first time, like it was so emotional because I just felt like, and I told him, I'm like, you need to leave me because I don't work anymore. Like I'm not good enough anymore. Like you don't deserve to have like a wife that what we doing? You know what I mean? I can't give you babies. I can't bring you pleasure. Like I don't want to be with you anymore. And that's where I was. And I was very vocal. And of course, it was an emotional experience. And like he was very. My husband has been amazing and wonderful, and that's why I said to you, like I feel like we're just like this now, like this, like, and we've been together for such a long time. But I feel like this has really brought us closer together
Yeah.
because he was so understanding, he was so patient, and just willing to like try and to give me time and to allow me to be vulnerable with him and share with him how I was feeling. So just talking and sharing and trying, and then just being patient with my body and not like trying to rush the process. I told you I was trying to just get through it. Like let me I gotta go back to work. Let me just get back. No. Like taking my time and learning myself again and learning my body again, and doing it with him.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. You talked about affirming your body.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think that it's something that, a lot of us never thought about doing, but I think it's so important. Like I said, especially going through that motherhood phase, a lot of us want to be mothers. A lot of our mates want us to be mothers. But then when we go through that transition, it can feel lonely and it can feel dark. So that's
Absolutely.
why I think this, what you're creating, is also very important because, a lot of us feel like we're going through it alone.
Hmm.
And so many of us are really, experiencing the same things and being able to talk about it and just process through those thoughts. Because, I'm sorry that you had to feel like that, feeling like, you were unworthy. to
Yes.
be with. And but God has blessed you to have somebody that will rock out with you and show you that you're appreciated, you're loved, and you're worthy. And
Mm-hmm.
this is a moment, and we're gonna get through this moment together, because that's hard. I know for me, I went through a bad dry spell. I'm like, I don't want to use this lube. I don't want to do
Girl,
any.
and so I didn't know if you wanted to go that deep, right? Because
Look, listen,
no,
we talk
but
about it here.
literally, I hated that. Like, I'm
Yeah,
not, listen, like, listen, I never need to use not a near nothing. And now you want me to be, who are you talking to? Like, that's how I was feeling. And then it just felt to me just very unnatural. And like that added to me, like that was like an added layer of like feeling broken. Because it's like,
insecurity.
girl, now
Yeah,
you need help. Like, you need extra sauce now. Like, I
yes,
didn't want to do that. Like, I didn't want to I didn't want to do it that way. Like, I just didn't want to. And I think that you talked about it in the beginning when you said you got the mirrors around you and you started
yeah,
like, because that's literally what I did in the beginning with my postpartum journey. I would go naked, just straight naked, like straight naked, everything, nothing on, like wig off, everything, just naked in my mirror. And I would just put like the affirmations on the mirror. And in the beginning, it would be very difficult to just stand there and look at myself. I mean, I would cry. I would be angry, upset, like, oh my gosh. But I kept saying affirmations. I kept saying affirmations. I kept saying affirmations. I kept saying affirmation. And little by little, I was able to like look and keep looking and look longer and longer and longer, to the fact that now, girl, don't let me walk past the mirror. Don't let me do it because I'm ready. Like, who that? Who that, girl? You look good. That's me. That's me to myself now, right? But it hasn't always been that way. And like you said, like that takes a lot of work and being honest and vocal about what's happening for you and what you're experiencing.
And we had a social worker, a therapist come on a while back, and
Mm-hmm.
she talked about that women hold stress in their stomachs. And I know for me, once I started doing that, I wasn't even working out, but literally for me, consciously taking my mind off of those negative thoughts and those negative feelings that I had towards my body. Like
Yep,
I said, that stomach started to go away.
it
And
does.
I'm like, everybody was like, "Oh, you losing weight?" I'm like, "I ain't doing nothing. I'm drinking water."
Mind
I
my business.
But
Yes.
I think, that like the idea that women hold stress in their stomach, men hold stress in their chest. If you ever notice your man gets, and they be like, my chest so tight, I'm about to have a heart attack. Yeah, because we hold stress in different places.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that was what I was doing. I had so much grief in my life. I had so much stress in my life. Just me also, like, part of my journey was I didn't want to have kids. Like, the idea of being married, having a Muslim family, having kids was like, yeah, but it really wasn't what I wanted. So
Mm,
that was a big part of,
mm,
something that I carried for a long time, was that I
mm.
didn't really want to have kids. And now I'm like a full-time mom. Like, hold on, what's going on? This is not what I asked for. Hold on, and I do a great job of it because I love
Of
kids. But
course,
I
of
was like,
course.
I love my other babies, not more
Yes,
than my babies,
of
but I
course,
love my babies and I love servants in my
of
community.
course.
So that was something that I had to be honest with, and that was something that my husband had to accept. Like, I love my kids and I have a million of them, and my kids are not coming underneath of them, but they're just right there with them as well as you. Y'all are all part of the village. And I had to be honest about those things, because when we lose those things that we love. So for you, what are some of the things that you love that you had to hold on to, even with the multiple hats of a mother, and a wife that you have to wear?
Yeah, so someone like I love before my kids, before my husband, I've always like loved reading. Reading is something that I live for. Like in my downtime, girl, I can read a book. Like I can read a book because I there's just something to for me. Like growing up, that was something that I really like spent a lot of time doing, and I love being able to like go to different places and experience them through reading, right? So reading is something I hold near and dear. I love to write. I love to be in nature. So going for walks, like not all the time, like, exercising outside, but just being outside in the sun. You know what I mean? Like just holding your head up and looking at the light and feeling the warmth on your body. That feels really good for me. That really feeds my soul. Of course, like my makeup girl, like that literally like saved my life. I love doing my makeup and getting dressed up and being cute. And those are things primarily for the most part. And music, my books, my writing, my makeup, my music, like, and being outside. Those are things that really fulfill me. And when I talk about my self-care, those are things I try to be intentional about doing for the most part every single day, because
Yeah.
that's what I know I need to do.
Yeah, and I think it's so funny because me and a sister, we was walking in nature, and we was talking about not, well, in the beginning, feeling guilty of having those moments to ourselves, right? And not always incorporating the kids in those moments. So, like for me, it's my nature walks. Like
Leave those
I
kids
don't want to
alone, girl.
take you on the nature walk with me, and now you're complaining about your legs hurt or you
And
want to
you
stop.
thirsty, like, quiet right now. You know what I mean? Like, no, and that's listen.
So it was so funny because as we were leaving, this mom comes and she's with her two daughters, and her face was like so over, like, why did I bring y'all with me? You know, because again, you won't have those things. And you talked about, asking moms, who are you? And not knowing the answer to that question. And I remember being in this space and I'm like, I always knew who I was. That's why I'm sisters with the agenda, right? I always knew who I was, but I got a place to where I couldn't answer that question.
Yeah. Hmm.
So
I
who
feel
are
like
you?
I feel like a lot of when I talk to like my moms, like my mom friends, like my mom clients, like they'll always say like, I'm a mom and this is what I do, and it's just like, wait, okay, but what do you like? You know what I mean? Like what feeds your soul? You know what I mean? Like what moves you? What makes you excited to get up in the morning outside of your kids? Like for me, it's just the prospect of having another day to try again. That makes me get excited. Going to get my Starbucks, like that makes me get excited. Like like, and I think that a lot of times it's because we place our worth and value in just being someone's mom, and
Yeah.
not that that in itself is bad, because that's not wrong. Like, of course that's part of our identity, but that is not all that we are. You know what I mean? And I think it's interesting that you talked about not wanting to have kids, because that's a perspective that you don't hear from often, right? You'll talk to women, they're always like, yes, I know I want to be a mom and I want to be a wife. And that's what most moms would, will always say. So to hear someone say like, nah, I want to do this, and now I'm doing it and I got to figure it out. Like, you know what I mean? I know it's refreshing for me.
Yeah, it was real. I always been very real. I always been a
Yeah.
very real and honest person.
Yeah.
And that was real for me. Like I had, because I was conditioned
Mm-hmm.
in the beginning of, like, so I went through it. I don't know if it was postpartum, but with my son, that was like my first time not working.
Mm-hmm.
I had always worked with kids since I was 18 years old. So it was like a grieving process for me. And then I'm home with this baby, and I was
I
living
want to be home.
I was
I
living
do
away
not
from
want
my
to be in
kids.
here.
And it was just a lot. And it's crazy because I have God kids. I took care of so many people, kids from babies to, teenagers, middle school kids, however. Like I was the one who took your kids to daycare. I did all the extra stuff, but I can give them back.
Yes.
I can give them back. So
Yes.
for me, I was like, I always thought that I was going to be this single woman living in a condo, maybe not single, but living in a condo somewhere, serving my community. I
Yes.
didn't think kids was going to be in the picture. So it
Mm-hmm.
took me a long time to accept that that was my truth and that was my reality. Like I
Yes.
didn't love my kids left. I didn't show my kids that. My kids don't feel that. Like we go to the park and my kids are the kids that don't stop talking to me.
No.
I'm like, why are y'all talking to me? I'm looking at all these other kids. They
And you in the
playing, their
park.
moms is not around, and my kids are saying my name 15 million times. So that lets me know that I'm a good mother and my kids love me dearly. But part of that is because I'm honest and I am true with myself and I am true with this journey, because I'm like, it doesn't have a blueprint, and what it looks like for me and what it looks like for you is two different things. But
Absolutely.
honoring my truth to be able to process, and like you said, to be able to feel that, because I had to go through some feelings, I had to shed some tears, I had to be honest with myself to get to the other side, and like you said, be able to pivot. Like
The, the thing that bothers me the most is kind of like how people talk about, like, it's important to be honest and people should be authentic, and then you live in your truth, and then it's like when people are honest, like you have to kind of sort of, apologize or explain, you know, kind of sort of, because people look at you like you're crazy. And the thing that I found the most is that a lot of this shame comes from other moms. And that's something that really like bothers me, right? Especially like in mom spaces, because I'm like, you know, we all in here in this together, like you said, with no blueprint, no rule book, just out here trying to figure it out. And we're supposed to be supporting each other. But sometimes it feels as if moms feel like if you're not doing it a certain way, you're doing it wrong. And
Yeah.
for me, it's kind of like, if there's no right way, how is anybody doing it wrong? You know what I mean? Like, who told you you was doing it right? I'm confused. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I feel like this is why, like you said, having these spaces to share and to talk and to be honest and to be able to hear different perspectives allows us to see that there's multiple ways to do this motherhood thing, right? And the most important way is to do it so that it feels authentic to you. That's the most important thing, right?
And I think what you just pointed out was very true about, you know, that judgmental lens. And it's so crazy because lately, me and my girlfriends, we've been just affirming each other because motherhood is hard, right? And, you know, we're trying to figure it out. And we'll send each other posts like, sis, I see you over there. You a great mom. You know, you doing your thing over there, you know, and just affirming each other and celebrating each other and celebrating those small wins. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, we are shifting mindsets. We are doing something different. And I remember my mom saying to me, like, I'm still trying to figure out what a wife is, Tangent, you know? And just those things help to give yourself grace and remind yourself that as long as I get up tomorrow and I try again to be better, you know, things will be better. Because like I said, being that angry mom and trying to meet all the expectations and make sure I'm checking off all of these boxes that I don't even know who put those boxes into.
Like, who made this list? I'm not gonna lose this list. I'm not gonna
Right.
do that.
Just make it, it just makes it harder. It
Mm-hmm.
just makes it harder, you know. I think that giving yourself grace and celebrating each other, like this is what this space is for. This is what we do here, is just to remind each other that our stories, standing in our truth, being able to reflect and release the things that we're holding on to, and being able to celebrate each and every day, because there's always something to celebrate. We all are doing some phenomenal things. Even if you wake up and just, you know, love on those babies, however you can love on them in your capacity, it starts with being true with yourself. Being true with yourself is really where the shift happens. Somebody did
Absolutely.
have a question. It
Okay.
says, what about if you always wanted to do it and now you don't, but you still want your kids to have a fulfilled life?
Well, we in the thick of it, right? So it's kind of sort of like it's just where we are. And I think that if you don't want to do it, why don't you want to do it anymore? What's going on for you? What's happening? Because I know certain stages and seasons of motherhood can get very, very trying. I'm raising teenagers and just ghetto, okay? These kids bring me through the ringer. Like, I teach high school babies all day, and then I come home and I have a teenager and a preteen in my house, and
Mhm.
they push my buttons. They test my limits, and I've never felt more challenged in motherhood, right? Not as a woman, but in motherhood than I do right now. And it makes you feel inadequate, like you're not measuring up, like you're not doing good enough, because that's sometimes how my children, when they act certain types of ways and they do certain types of things, that's how it makes me feel. But
Right.
what I do know for a fact is that I'm going to give my best. And what I don't know how to do, I'm going to find out. I truly believe in that, you know, that African proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. I also think it takes a village to raise a mother, right? And I feel like,
Yes.
well, support a mom. It's very important for us to have a village, right? So when my kids are giving me a hard time, they're going to their father. They're gonna go to, you know, one of my friends. They're gonna go to their grandmothers. They're gonna go to someone else, and I'm going to get the support. Things that I don't know how to do, I'm gonna read up on. I'm gonna study. I'm gonna ask questions, and I'm just going to keep trying, right? Because this is their mind, and my job is to help them to get to adulthood and be productive members of this world. And the best way to do that is to be open, right? And willing to try things a different kind of way. That's why I'm doing conscious parenting. It's a struggle. It's a struggle with teenagers. It's a struggle. But there are days where I see it and it's just like, oh, okay, they're getting it, right? And I feel like motherhood is one of those kinds of experiences that you won't know how good you do until they've grown. You're
Yeah.
not going to know. So us in the thick of it right now, like we don't truly know, like, you know, what the end is going to be. That's why it's just important to keep getting up and trying your best. That's it. And if you've done your best, you're doing a good job.
Yep, I think that's a great part to end on because I definitely was about to say, y'all already know it's all about taking back the village. That's why we do what we do here, because it's about finding the right village for you and your kids because you want to have the right role models around your kids. You want to have the right people feeding into your kids that is aligned with you. And me working in schools and just me being a child who was raised by a village of different people that kept me accountable. And when I didn't always listen to my mom, my aunt, or somebody at the masjid could have said the same thing and it's going to receive different. And I catch my sister doing that a lot. Like she'll be like, okay, talk to your niece,
Yep.
because we know that sometimes it's not received the same way
From
from
us,
us
from
that is
somebody else.
received
Yep.
in somebody else. So being willing to tap out. And I always thank my mothers at my school that let me stand with them. You know what I'm saying? Thank you for allowing me to stand with them. Thank you for allowing me to call your son my son. Thank you for allowing me to have these difficult conversations with you as a
Yep.
mother sometimes, to just be able to reel it in, give you the support, give you a different perspective of how you can look at this situation, because sometimes we don't see it because we do have that mother lens on, and we do have certain expectations for our kids, or,
Yeah, and we take a lot of things that they do personal. So it
yeah,
hurt. Like it hurt when you like, why are you doing that to me?
I
Like,
raised
what are
you
you
better
doing?
than that.
And it's not about that, mommy. It's not you, baby. It's not you. The babies are being babies. That's
Yeah.
it. It is not personal. Mm-hmm.
And I think the power of the village is
Village. Yep.
so important. And that, like you said, the African proverb is so true when you're able to lean on it and actually use it. So definitely tap into your village. I think that was a really great question. And be okay. Again, that goes into those grace parts, that every day is not going to be a great day. Every moment is not going to be a great moment. That's part of the journey. Those difficult times is going to be able to birth you and strengthen you for what's to come next, because like you
Period.
said, the journey of kids is a journey.
Whew.
And I know I was one of those kids. I gave my mom and dad a run for their money, and
Now I was a good kid. I was good. I did good. I was until I got pregnant.
No, I was suspended every other week. I was in the masjid every other week. But all of those things helped me develop into the woman that
Who
I was.
you are,
Being in
exactly.
the masjid because I was suspended, so I was around the village. And it's so funny because I told my kids, us moving back with my mom and dad, I said, y'all know, you coming to the village. So if you do something, your aunt gonna get you, your mom gonna get you, my sister getting my daughter on FaceTime. Why you poking out your lip? Tanja, pluck her in her lip. So that's how my family is. Everybody is going to hold you accountable. You're going to get it from
Absolutely.
everybody, but you also want to get that love from
That's
everybody.
it.
So the village is super important. I want to thank you. This was
No
a great,
problem.
great, great, great dialogue. Y'all go check her out. Get y'all support. Get y'all village. So if you a mom and you need a village and you need that mommy love, that mommy support, because mom is hard. Being a mom is hard. It's hard out here being a mom. I'm like trying to manage two little ones, homework, work, and we got our little routine. And like I said, I'm so grateful for like the 2 hours, 3 hours that we got to stay up, because trust and believe at 8 o'clock they are in the bed.
Period. My kids are in bed already. Good night. Good night. And now it's time for my husband. Like that's it. That's how we're gonna do this in this
Yep.
household.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm just so grateful for spaces like this, conversations like this. This is our Testimony Tuesday. Again, this is where we come to talk about where we're at with tackling life today. This space is open to all people of color. So men, women, youth, we want to come and talk about our testimony to reflect, release, and celebrate. So if you have a testimony you would like to share, you can send me a DM or head over to our website at sisterswiththeagenda.com SWAAgendavillage.org. Is there any way they can connect with you, and what services do you offer on
Of
your
course,
platform?
of course. So, like, if you're a mom and you're looking for ways to prioritize your self care, get back to find out who you are, you can hit me up here. You can follow me at Modern Day Makeup Mommy. But then I also have my business page where I help my mom clients do exactly what I'm talking about here, figuring out how to redefine motherhood so that you can look and feel good, because that's really important. You can follow me on Instagram at a Modern Day Mommy. And you can also check out my blog, moderndaymakeupmommy.com, where I talk just like this about what my experience is raising my boys and what my self care looks like.
Now, do you still do your makeup lives? Because that's where I
Yes.
caught you from.
So,
Okay.
I haven't done makeup. Okay, real quick. I have not done makeup in a very long time because
Okay.
of the hot flashes. So when my makeup was not staying, it was just a whole mess. It will be too much. But now that things are starting to round out and things are working, you see, I got my face done. I can run makeup again, so I'm ready to start my makeup again. So yes, I
Okay.
do makeup now again.
Yes, you was teaching me the basics. The basics.
That's
That's
yes,
what.
I think it's important. Mom beauty, very very simple, everyday face stuff like this. Really really easy, so that you can just feel good for things like this, like right in front of the camera, going to work. Simple makeup.
Yes, thank you. Thank
No
you, everybody,
problem.
for tapping in. Make sure y'all tell a friend to come join. We are
Mhm.
back live for We See You Wednesday tomorrow as we spotlight somebody for their personal and professional level up. And we're back Thursday for our Thursday tips and tools, because after we release, reflect, and celebrate, we then got to get the tips and tools so we can continue to level up. So make sure y'all tap in, and make sure tomorrow you let somebody know that you see them and you appreciate them. Have a great night, everybody.
Night
Thank
night.
you.
Bye, boo.